Hello everybody. Welcome to the special series on GS Mains 2019 discussion. As a part of this special series, we have been discussing a number of questions that have appeared in the General Studies Mains 2019 exam. Now the objective of this special series is twofold. One is to highlight the importance of various sources we provide, including the Daily News Simplified analysis, the monthly Focus magazine, and the Mains Compass that is released before the mains examination in the corresponding year. Now, this special series is also aimed at helping you build an approach towards answer writing in the mains examination. Now, in this edition, we'll be discussing this question that has appeared in General Studies Paper 3 with respect to Indo-Myanmar border security issues. Now, in that the question read, the cross-border movement of insurgents is only one of the several security challenges facing the policing of border in the northeast India. Examining the various challenges currently emanating across Indo-Myanmar border, also discuss steps to counter these challenges. Now, this question is for 15 marks and shall be written in 250 words. Now, as it is evident, this question is fairly straightforward in that the examiner is expecting you to identify various challenges across Indo-Myanmar border today and discuss various steps to counter these challenges. Now, as I've already stated, this question is fairly straightforward in that the examiner is expecting you to identify various challenges that are currently emanating across Indo-Myanmar border, also discuss the steps to counter these challenges. Therefore, the approach to write this answer is fairly simple. You need to identify these challenges and discuss the solutions for the same. Now, before we discuss the answer to this question, let us understand the Indo-Myanmar border security issues in brief. Now, as you must be aware, India shares a 1600 kilometer long land border with Myanmar across the states of Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, and Arunachal Pradesh. Now, given the proximity of ethnicities that live across the border as a result of geographical contiguity, the border between India and Myanmar has been a hotbed of counterinsurgency from time immemorial. In that, a number of secessionist insurgent groups from India have set up their bases in Myanmar and have operated from there. Now, for example, the NSCM Khaplang, which is a Naga separatist group in Nagaland, has its base in Myanmar. Besides, the insurgent groups in Manipur, such as the Kuki and the Mighty insurgent groups, have also used Myanmar to operate in India. Now, this has been possible because of the geographical contiguity between the two countries and the resultant ethnic linkages across the borders, in that these ethnicities live in both the countries, which has resulted in cross-border insurgency from time immemorial. Now, though the secessionist demands have diluted given the 72 years of independence, as a result of lack of development and consequent relative deprivation and alienation, the insurgency groups in these states are still active, particularly in these states that are bordering Myanmar. Now, besides, the hilly and inhospitable terrain, which grossly lacks the basic infrastructure, making the border extremely porous, has facilitated a number of activities of various Indian insurgent groups to operate from across the border. Now, this extremely porous border has facilitated the cross-border movement of militants, illegal arms, drugs, etc., posing a serious security challenge to India in this region. So, as we have seen, the cross-border insurgency across the Indo-Myanmar border has been a serious security challenge, fueling a number of violent incidents in India. Now, further, the insurgents have used the porous border to smuggle arms and ammunition to fuel its activities in India. Now, the bulk of these weapons are basically sourced from Thailand and Cambodia, find its way in India through the Indo-Myanmar border, particularly near the Shin state and Sagaing division of Myanmar. Now, given the proximity to Golden Triangle, the Indo-Myanmar border is vulnerable to drug trafficking, particularly those of heroin and synthetic drugs that originates in this Golden Triangle. Now, it should be noted that India is situated in a vulnerable geography close to the global drug trafficking hubs of Golden Crescent in the west and Golden Triangle in the east. Now, the Golden Triangle, which accounts to almost 20% of the illegal drug trafficked, comprises of northern Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar. And given the proximity to this Golden Triangle, the Indo-Myanmar border is extremely vulnerable for drug that is trafficked from this Golden Triangle area into India. Now, the common drugs that are trafficked through these routes include the heroin and the synthetic drugs, especially the amphetamine type stimulants like ecstasy, meth, etc. Now, while arms smuggling and drug trafficking has been a traditional problem across the Indo-Myanmar border, recently there is an upsurge in the gold smuggling across the border, in that about 25% of the gold smuggled into India is from the Indo-Myanmar border area. Now, the recent seizure reports of Directorate of Revenue Intelligence has shown two crossover points between India and Myanmar for the gold smuggling, particularly in states of Mizoram and Manipur, especially the area called More in Manipur, which connects to Sagaing division of Myanmar, is the emerging gold smuggling hub across the border area. Now, as a result, gold smuggling is the emerging problem in addition to the traditional arms smuggling and drug trafficking across Indo-Myanmar border. Now, besides, the recent Rohingya crisis in Myanmar is said to pose a security threat to India, in that the Rohingyas that have fled from Myanmar to Bangladesh are being exploited by the anti-India extremist groups like Jamaat-e-Islami and Jamaat-e-Mujahideen in Bangladesh, who have tried to destabilize the Sheikh Hasina government in Bangladesh, disturbing the peace in the region. Now, besides, recently it is seen that the local insurgent groups of Myanmar are said to be moving towards the Indo-Myanmar border and been targeting a number of development projects that are jointly being developed by India and Myanmar, including the Kaladan project, which is seen as the alternative gateway to Northeast. Now, these Myanmar insurgents are particularly targeting the highway projects between Manipur and Myanmar, which is a part of Kaladan project, and thus is said to pose a threat to development to the Northeast region. Now, it is to be noted that India has heavily invested in building of the Sitwe port as a part of the Kaladan multimodal transit project, which will basically be connected to Kolkata port for routing goods to the northeastern region through Myanmar. Now, currently, the Siliguri corridor or the chicken neck of Northeast is said to be the gateway for these products to reach Northeast. Now, given the narrow area of this chicken neck, it is unable to handle heavy machineries, which will now be routed from the Kolkata port to Sitwe port through to Myanmar and reaching the Northeast. Therefore, the Kaladan project is extremely important to India, which has been targeted by these insurgent groups of Myanmar, posing a developmental threat to northeastern region. Now, having seen the challenges across Indo-Myanmar border, including the traditional ones like the cross-border insurgency, arms smuggling and drug trafficking, and the emerging ones such as gold smuggling, the Rohingya crisis, movement of Myanmar insurgents towards the border, now let us look at some of the solutions to this border security problem. Now, among the first of the solution is an integrated border management, including fencing of these borders. Now, currently the Indo-Myanmar border are not being fenced given the difficult and hilly terrain across the border, leaving a lot of scope for cross-border movement of insurgents. As a result, fencing is seen as one of the first solutions for managing the border. Besides, the border currently is guarded by Assam rifles, who also border other border areas. As a result, one of the committees has recommended the setting up of a dedicated border force for guarding the Indo-Myanmar border that can be established out of the cadres of Assam Rifle. Now, besides, India is also establishing what is known as an integrated check post, which is basically a passenger terminal in the More area of Manipur. Now, this integrated check post is set to substantially reduce drug trafficking, arms smuggling and gold smuggling across the border, and therefore expediting this project becomes extremely important. Besides, the Indian Army and the Myanmar Army have been conducting joint operations in fighting the insurgents, including the recent Operation Sunshine and Sunrise that have targeted the insurgent groups in Myanmar. Besides, India should also push for finalizing the Naga peace accord that has been pending for a long time, as this will decrease the insurgent activities of the separatist NSC and Khaplang group. In addition, India should step up its international cooperation, particularly with that of Bangladesh, in order to stop the anti-India activities of the extremist Islamist groups in Bangladesh who have been exploiting the Rohingyas, particularly the Jamaat-e-Islami and Jamaat-e-Mujahideen. Now, having understood the cross-border insurgency and other security threats across the Indo-Myanmar border and possible solutions, let us look at the structure of this answer. Now, as I have said, the question is fairly straightforward and it requires you to list down the challenges and steps to encounter the challenges. In that, you can divide the challenges into two parts, including insurgency and trafficking. Further, the insurgency can be highlighted in two parts. One is the traditional insurgency, which is the cross-border insurgency between India and Myanmar, and also the emerging insurgency problem, in that the Myanmar insurgents are moving closer to the Indo-Myanmar border and particularly targeting the Kaladan projects, which is said to be an alternative gateway for the development of Northeast. Further, while highlighting drug trafficking and arms smuggling as the traditional issue, the emerging issue of gold smuggling may also be highlighted. In this, it is important to highlight the proximity of Indo-Myanmar border to the Golden Triangle. Now, you may also add another dimension under drug trafficking, in that the illegal drug trafficking across the border areas of Mizoram, Manipur and Nagaland has particularly increased drug abuse in the state of Mizoram, as a result of which Mizoram has the highest HIV incidence. Now, as you must be aware, the key population for HIV incidence include the drug addicts. Therefore, as a result of drug trafficking and consequent drug abuse, the number of HIV cases in Mizoram is on the rise. Besides, you can also highlight the Rohingya crisis and its security threat to India, in that the anti-India Islamist groups, particularly the Jamaat-e-Islami and Jamaat-e-Mujahideen, who are trying to destabilize the region by exploiting the Muslim population of the Rohingyas. Now, having highlighted the security challenges across Indo-Myanmar border under this framework, you may list down the solution under these 4 points, including an integrated approach to border security, which included, as I have already discussed, fencing of the borders, a dedicated force out of Assam Rifle guarding the Indo-Myanmar borders, and the establishment of a dedicated hotline between the border forces of India and Myanmar for effective communication with respect to the border movements. Now, in addition to this border management, you may highlight some of the points that we have discussed as steps to curb insurgency, which also includes development of Northeast in general. Now, this is in order to reduce the feeling of relative deprivation in the region. Besides, some of the political solution, including Naga peace accord, which will bring down the sympathizers for these insurgents. Now, under the steps to curb trafficking, you may highlight the information exchange agreement that was signed between India and Myanmar. Now, according to this agreement, India and Myanmar have started coordinated efforts to fight drug trafficking, including information exchange and sharing of best practices. Besides, you can also highlight some of the international cooperation efforts that India has taken, including the joint operations of Indian Army and Myanmar Army and the cooperation required with Bangladesh in order to handle the security threat posed by the anti-Islamic groups in Bangladesh who have been exploiting the Rohingyas. Now, further, you may conclude by highlighting the need for India's push to development by promoting regional connectivity, particularly the importance of Kaladan project should be expedited in order to fulfill the development requirements of the Northeast region as a whole, which will effectively reduce the number of sympathizers for these insurgent movements across Indo-Myanmar border, which has been one of the most serious security threat to India. Now, with this, we come to the end of today's discussion. You may go through the model answer that is given in the PDF below.